Welcome to Oregon Indie Film, a video podcast that shines the light on Oregon's independent film industry. I'm your host, Dawn Sellers. I interview Oregon's independent filmmakers who offer insights into the creative process, challenges, and triumphs of making movies in Oregon. This interview is one in a series of conversations this summer with filmmakers whose work will be screening at the Portland Festival of Cinema, Animation, and Technology. I sat down with Winslow Crane-Murdoch, the director, and Kyle Von Hoetzendorff with Lucky Day Post-Production House to talk about the film, Oh Whale. When news anchor Paul Linnman arrived in Florence, Oregon on November 12, 1970, he had no idea that the story he was about to tell would forever define his career. Following a small Oregon town, an exploding whale, and the man who made the story famous, Oh Whale is about how we don't get to choose our fate, only what we make of it. I hope you enjoy this episode of Oregon Indie Film. Welcome to Oregon Indie Film. I'm here today with Winslow Crane-Murdoch and Kyle Von Hoetzendorff. Am I saying that right?
Really close. We go Von Hoetzendorff, but you're so close.
Von Hoetzendorff. All right. So both producers, and Winslow is the director of Oh Whale, a documentary short that will be screening at the Portland Festival of Cinema, Animation, and Technology you guys are on Friday the 21st, I think. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, at 6 p.m., Friday 21st.
Well, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to have you here. This story is such an Oregon story. I mean, everybody, I think, who's been around knows about the exploding whale. So I'm kind of excited to see the documentary and to hear about how that went when you made the documentary. So I think we'll just start off by having you both tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. So whoever wants to go first.
Winslow, jump
on. Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Winslow Crane-Murdoch. I am a director and cinematographer, documentary filmmaker. I live here in Portland. I moved here almost 10 years ago now from the East Coast. Was born and raised on the East Coast. And what do I do? Yeah, I make films. I like to make human-centered stories. And so that's what brought me to this film, what brought me to meet Kyle and his company, Lucky Day. And I make shorts and features and have a number of things that I'm working on right now. But A Whale has been a very fun project, very dear to me. I got to make it with people I love and a ton of friends and now new friends. And it just was a really exciting process. So thanks for having us on, and we're excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Kyle Von Hoetzendorff. I'm a partner and editor at Lucky Day. We're a post-production company in Portland, and we mostly focus on like commercial work, but a lot of our editors have come from documentary background. And I was tasked by one of our other partners to kind of go out and look for a creative project that we could be a part of. And one of the editors on our roster, Aiden Haley, who's also a producer on this, is good friends with Winslow and his partner, Cecilia, and they put us in touch, and we started talking about some ideas. And like you said, Dawn, this is such an Oregon story. You know, if you've been here for any amount of time or you've been on the internet at all, you probably know about this exploding whale. And we were really excited to kind of like see what else we can kind of pull out of the story. And I think Winslow and Cecilia and Luke, the producing side, really kind of was able to capture a bunch of stuff that we were able to put together. So it's been a fun ride.
Great. And so, Kyle, are you from Portland?
No, I'm from a small town in California, the Eastern Sierra. I've been here since 2005. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what brought both of you to Portland? Winslow, what brought you to Portland 10 years ago?
What brought me? My wife and I were living in New York City. Her name's Cecilia Brown. She's also a filmmaker. We make films together, and she was a producer on this film. We weren't making films together at the time, and she had a very flexible job, and I did as well, being a filmmaker, being mostly an unemployed filmmaker at that point in my life. And so we were just ready for a change. We were living in New York and wanted to be in a place that had better access to the outdoors and Still had the things that cities have to offer, but gave us a different pace of life from New York. And we knew a couple people out here and had spent some time out here and loved it. And so we decided to make the move, and that was 2017. Yeah, so that was 9 years ago, and we haven't looked back. It's been a really wonderful place to come and to make films and start to meet the film community, and also just the regular community here in Portland. We've really enjoyed being here.
Yeah. And how about you, Kyle? What brought you to Portland?
I had just finished college. Had just met my now partner, and we were both living in Santa Barbara, California, which is where I went to school, and it felt too small. And Portland, we both had friends here, and my wife was not interested in moving to the East Coast, which is kind of where I was interested in. And it seemed like a really great kind of mix of all the things that brought Winslow here. We could do outdoor stuff. The little town I grew up in is very outdoors, and it's a nice mix of being able to have like kind of all of the what I like to think of like the nice accoutrement of a big city, food and culture, but also being able to like leave the city in half an hour and 45 minutes and like literally be out in nature was a big draw. So I do a lot of cycling, and at the time, and still, Portland is a big bicycle city, so that was also a pull.
Yeah, it's really easy to get around by bicycle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do, I mean, we have it all. Oregon, you can get anywhere. You can, I mean, coast, mountains within, a couple hour drive. So it really is wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, Winslow, you and your wife, you mentioned your wife, Cecilia Brown.
Mhm.
You both were selected for the Film Independent Documentary Story Lab, which was
Yeah.
just in May. So I'm excited to hear kind of about that a little bit and how that
Sure.
has helped shape your work going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. For folks who don't know, Film Independent is an amazing organization run out of LA. They do work on the narrative side and the doc side. They have various programs all aimed at sort of filmmakers' career development. And my wife and I are working on a feature that we're co-directing called A Bird with a Knife about mysterious cattle mutilations that have been happening across the American West since the 1970s.
Yeah.
It's a movie about sort of aliens and cults and government conspiracy and everything in between, and follows this one man who was obsessed with solving it for 50 years. So we were lucky enough to be invited to this. It's sort of like a rough cut workshop where we went down to LA for a week. We were with 5 other teams, and we all screened our films and had mentorship and feedback sessions, and then they had other sort of sessions with people about the industry, and it was really incredible. We've been lucky enough to participate in a couple of these labs, and as a filmmaker, you're always sort of looking for various types of support, and there are grants which are always amazing, but these labs are actually really exciting. We just did another one called Rough Cut Retreat, which was from the Catapult Film Fund and the True False Film Festival. That just was 2 weeks ago. We just got back. And it was a similar thing where we all got to come together and workshop our film and hear from industry mentors about what's working and what's not, which is important at a rough cut stage. Hopefully a good mix of what's working and what's not. But it was really critical feedback at a really critical time. And so these types of organizations that are invested in sort of developing filmmakers' careers are pretty invaluable. And Film Independent, I felt so grateful to be a part of that program. It was really wonderful, and I would recommend any filmmaker to look into it, especially here in Oregon. The filmmaking community here in Oregon is really incredible, but it can also sometimes feel a little far away from sort of the central hubs of New York and LA. And so to get to participate in some of those things and step into those spaces and meet people in these places that are a little bit more connected is a great way as an Oregon filmmaker to be able to live here, but then also to expand the reach a little bit and connect into those communities.
Yeah, I think because we do have such a kind of vibrant and active film community, we tend to stay in our bubble here and just stay and get our work done. So I imagine it is really wonderful to kind of reach out and then bring those skills home, right? Bring them back.
Yeah, totally.
And use those. Yeah. And you've been making documentaries for a while. Your premiere, your first documentary, did it premiere in, I can't remember the date I saw. When did you make your first documentary?
Yeah, my first feature film premiered in 2022 at the Hot Docs Film Festival in Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about A Whale. So, although I'm super interested in the cow feature documentary,
We can talk about that.
yeah, that sounds like kind of exciting too. So yeah, mutilated cows and exploding whales. I'm
I
sensing
know
a
we're
theme
developing a
here.
bit of a theme, which was not intended. In fact, my wife Cecilia, she was saying, when I had originally sort of came across this story first, and I came to her and I was like, "Hey, this is a pretty fun idea," and she was like, "It's hilarious, but we can't work on another dead animal film. Like, I will not do this." And then I roped our buddy Luke into it, and he joined up. And at that point, Cecilia was like, everyone's doing it. I gotta.
Yeah.
We kind of we pulled her along, and luckily we did because she's brilliant and added so much to the story.
Add a little peer pressure there and
Yeah.
drag her in. So, but this documentary doesn't focus so much on the whale as it does Paul Linnman's story. Is that correct? He
Yeah.
sort of became famous for covering this exploding whale story in the 70s. So tell me about that. Like, tell me about how you went about that with him. I mean, obviously, you've interviewed him and talked to him quite a bit about it.
Sure. Yeah, I can start on that, and then Kyle, I'd be curious your perspective on it as well. I
Yeah.
think that when Cecilia and I look for films, we always look for something that sort of goes beyond the initial sense of what people think it would be when you first pitch it. And so, in this case, it's the story of the exploding whale, and it's this hilarious, amazing news event. I think when we came to it, the question was, is there anything that we can do that would be better than what's already been done? The 3-minute version that Paul and Doug produced is incredible, and it has stayed for this long because it's incredible. It's amazingly well written. It's hilarious. It's quick. It does the job. And so, it doesn't necessarily need anything more, unless there's an interesting character behind it. And so we started doing some research, came across Paul, came across this one news story that sort of talked about his experience of this story and how at first he was kind of reticent to be known for this one story. I mean, Paul went on to have a really amazing career, including producing like over 1,000 of these stories called what was it? I think it was Extraordinary People, or no, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things.
Yes.
And it was these amazing stories across the Northwest of all these incredible people doing really, really wonderful things that you wouldn't expect. And, he's not known for these stories, even though they were incredible, even though he went on to have this really great career. And so as I started to latch onto that, I was like, okay, there's something here that's a little bit more interesting and gives this film an arc. And then we found out about his license plate, and I don't want to necessarily spoil it for people.
Oh yeah, don't give it away.
Yeah, but there's a shot that ends the film that I think, seeing that, was like, okay, there's a story here, and there's an arc, and there's something that we can do that sort of takes this beyond just the whale. And the town story also becomes part of that, the way in which the town went through a similar arc of sort of being embarrassed about it at first, and then coming to terms with it and coming to love it in a very real way. So I took that pitch to Kyle and to Lucky Day, and I'm curious, Kyle, how you guys received that at first, because at face value, it is very much just sort of a funny story, and I think that's what draws people in. But I think from the start, we were kind of like, okay, is there something we can tease out that's a little bit bigger than that?
So yeah, Kyle, what did you think when this story first came to you about the exploding whale? What was your first thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a couple strong ideas that we had, Winslow and I had talked about. He had pitched our way, and the other kind of creative part of our team was really latched onto the exploding whale, and they loved just the story on its surface, but we knew that there had to be something more because like as Winslow said, the story Paul and Doug put together was very good, succinct, and very funny and entertaining, which is why it's had the staying power and like the draw that it has earned. So, I think what we were able to discover is through the production process and through the post process, we were able to really find like, oh, who is this character? What are we drawing out? What does it teach us about experience and fame and all of these things that, we see happen to ourselves and to other people in the world and stuff we carry with us. And I think like it was done really well from the production side, and I think through post to kind of find that story and be able to weave both of those things together to say like, yes, we can't you cannot look away from the exploding whale, but also what's going on beyond that, and how does it come together? I think to answer the question specifically, I think we were just really excited about doing something around the exploding whale, and we were able to kind of like as a post house, we know that so much is also done in the edit. Like you have this raw idea that then you shape through editorial. So I think we just had the faith that we would find what that story needed to be in the post process. And as Winslow was saying, you go out and collect a lot of these like gems through production and through the research that leads into the production. What you want to do is shape them and put it into something. So you have a pile of gems, you have a pile of mortar, and then all of a sudden you have a crown or whatever metaphor you want at the end, because you've really put it together in a shape that kind of is something appealing, right? So yeah, it was really exciting to kind of have that and know that we have like this one anchor piece, but then it's like, well, yes, and what can we do beyond that to really make this something that stands out, right?
Yeah. And so while you were researching and sort of interviewing people, did you find any interesting characters in the town where it happened? Like, were there still people that you were able to connect with that were there at the time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of the most fun parts of it. And
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of it didn't happen in our research. A lot of it happened during production. There was a lot of happy accidents. We had looked for people who were there at the time, but it was kind of a hard thing to research because it was a random assortment of people and not everyone had talked about it or been in the news about it. And so, there was some very specific people that we were looking for that had already passed. And then there was a question of whether they still had family members around. But well, first of all, when we got to Florence or in the lead up to Florence, we looked up the people who now run the Exploding Whale Memorial Festival, which happens every year in Florence. And shout out to Terry Hankins and Joe Boudreau and Elaine. I'm forgetting Elaine's last name at the moment, but they are incredible and they sort of set us on the right path. And Terry and Joe are in the film. And so that was sort of those were interviews that knew we would have to start with. But then there's this amazing moment where we walk into the Florence Museum and they have a whale vertebrae on display from the exploding whale, from the dead whale that was left on the beach.
Wow.
And they have it in this glass case. And we walked in, we were in a rush to leave. We had to get Luke back to a flight in Portland. And the guy sitting in the museum was like, I was there that day. We were like, we had no idea that you were there that day. Can you sit down for an interview right now? And so it was funny because our other interviews that we set up for the film, the main interview with Paul and Doug probably took 2 hours to set up. And for this one, we were just like, we have 20 minutes, here's a chair, no lights, let's just shoot this thing. And so we got an incredible interview with him. He was amazing. And he really he plays a really critical role in the film. And then later we went back to the Florence Memorial Festival, which happens in November. And we met, Carrie. Carrie, who was the son of the man whose car was crushed by the whale blubber. And so that was also a happy accident where he would just happen to be there. And he said, I was there. And I figured the man had family, but the man wouldn't, that family wouldn't have been there with him that day. It just so happened that his son was there and watched the whole thing happen. And so we got another firsthand account from Carrie, which was absolutely wonderful. And of course, the car getting smashed is sort of the punchline of the whole thing. And so to have him there to talk about that was really incredible. So I could go on and on about the town. Everyone in the town is incredible. They were so generous with their time, and so generous with this story and the way that they've approached this story. And I think filmmaking and especially comedic filmmaking is a really fine balance, because there's a lot of things that are funny, but you don't want to ever feel like you're laughing at people.
Right.
And so we tried really hard in this film to just be laughing with them, and they already think it's hilarious, and they have this sort of like amazing, they take it seriously in a way that they sort of have this festival around it, and they've built this community around it, but they also know that it's absurd. And so that was kind of the best thing for us as filmmakers, was to be able to lean into that absurdity and to be in on the joke with them. And I think that comes across in the film, hopefully, that we're laughing along with the town at how crazy this moment in history was.
Yeah, Florence really has embraced the whole event. And this was over 50 years ago, right? It
Yeah,
was
1970.
1970. Yeah. So I imagine, was it Carrie, you said, was the son of
Mhm.
the man who owned the car? So was he young when that happened then? I mean, was he just
Yeah,
a child?
he was 14 at the time.
So I
And
bet his
there's footage of
perspective
him.
is fantastic on that whole
Yeah.
event. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and his dad has passed. Walter was his name, Walter Umenhofer, and um, Carrie was just like, this was probably one of the best things that ever happened to my dad and I.
Wow.
And
Wow.
his dad, apparently, from the moment it happened, even though it was his car that was smashed by this blubber, was laughing from the moment that it happened. And so he has this amazing memory with his dad of just being like, of also seeing the way that his dad handled what could have been this very stressful moment.
Yeah.
And the fact that he laughed at it said a lot about who he was. And so I think Carrie's really proud that this is a small moment of history that they shared together.
Yeah. And so were you able to get a lot of historical footage then of the event other than just the news report? Or did you recreate or did you like film present day most of the
Yeah.
documentary?
I mean, I can talk about the footage, and then maybe Kyle, you can talk about the animation,
Yeah, for sure.
which is a big part of this. But
Okay.
the footage we were lucky enough to work with the Oregon Historical Society. They were incredible, and they made the original footage available to us in 2020. They did a 4K remaster of the original film, and so that was really exciting because they did a 4K remaster of all of the film that was shot that day. So it's a 3-minute piece and they shot about 10 minutes of film. And so we got that entire 10 minutes, including all of their B-roll, the stand-up that Paul does on the beach, the interview that he does on the beach. And so we had all of that footage, but that was the only footage that exists, is that 10 minutes.
Mhm.
A real testament to them and the way that they made news at the time. 10 minutes of footage for a 3-minute piece. Now with digital, we overshoot like crazy, right? And
Yeah.
so to think that they were just working with film and they just had not that long to get everything. They were really, really talented. And in the process of making this, I've been so impressed at how quickly and amazingly well they told that story.
Today I'm chatting with some of the filmmakers you'll meet at the Portland Festival of Cinema, Animation, and Technology, also known as PFCAT, happening August 18th through the 23rd at OMSI. At PFCAT, you'll experience 170 indie films from 30 countries, filmmaker Q&As, educational panels, and networking events. It's 6 days of events that brings our local community together through visionary film and animation. There's a free Creator Expo on Saturday, August 22nd you won't want to miss. Find the full schedule and tickets at pdxfestofcinema.com. This link will be included in this episode's show notes. Hey there. If you're enjoying this episode of Oregon Indie Film, don't go anywhere. We've got more great conversation coming up. And if you believe in uplifting local voices and the power of independent storytelling, we'd love your support. Hit that follow button, share the show with a friend, or leave us a quick 5-star review. It makes a big difference. Want to get more involved? Reach out at OregonIndieFilm@gmail.com. Now, back to the episode.
But yeah, so that was the rest of it was production footage, a lot of interviews. And then Lucky Day kept being like, do you guys want to do animation? And we kept being like, can we do animation? And so that was a really fun part. And maybe Kyle can take it from there. But we had the animation really, I think, is a special part of the film.
Yeah. So what made you want to add the animation, like combine the documentary with the animation? How was that? How did that come about?
I think the thing, Don, that you'll see and people will see when they watch the film, and even if you watch the exploding whale footage on YouTube, is there's not a lot of like aftermath because the guys picked their camera up and ran. So like we were able to use, yeah.
It was a mess.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess. There was giant hunks of blubber meat flying all over. So, we were able to kind of work with a really fantastic animation partner, Meister, their motion graphics and animation agency here in Portland. And we work with them on a number of other projects, and they were able to come in and really put together something special that kind of helped tie that story together. We saw them some spaces that we really wanted to fill because we knew we could kind of elevate the story and elevate the action a little bit. And yeah, they kind of knocked it out of the park with the animation, really bringing life to stuff that we wouldn't have access to. And we were thinking,
Right.
oh, do we do it with stills or whatever? And the animation is great. So yeah, it really helps kind of tie that part of the story together to tell a little bit like what was happening as everyone was running away from this rain of blubber.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lesson that we look back on every time there is a beached whale in Oregon now. It's like, oh, don't bring in the dynamite. Let's figure out
Yeah.
another way to get rid of it. Were you able to screen the film in Florence? Have you screened it there?
We haven't screened the film in Florence yet, but we are in the process right now of scheduling that screening, and we are going to do it hopefully in conjunction with the Exploding Whale Memorial Festival in November. And some things that we can't announce quite yet, but I hope to sort of announce also around that time and make it a big event. So we are planning to bring it to Florence soon, and it's gonna, yeah, we're excited for that moment. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, yeah. And so how does it feel having the screen at the Portland Festival of Cinema, Animation, and Technology, the PFCAT? Like, are you excited to have it there? Is it, did you ever think you would be in a festival with this documentary?
Yeah, I mean, certainly excited. I've heard great things about PFCAT. I've never been to any of the films. I love OMSI. It's a really cool place to screen. And I thought of it more as an animation festival. And Portland has
Yeah,
such a rich history of animation. And so to be at a festival that sort of taps into that network and that history is incredible. Like is amazing. There's so many stop motion places here in Portland that have done
yeah.
such incredible work. And so um, yeah, that part is really exciting. We've had a really great festival run with this film. So we started actually in October, playing at the New Hampshire Film Festival, where we won the jury award for Best Documentary Short and qualified for the Oscars, which is really exciting. And
That's
so
very exciting. Yeah.
it's been a great run from there. I think we've played 30 festivals at this point, have
Oh,
more
wow.
coming up. And so it's just been really cool to see how it's been received across the country. The film has played to all sorts of audiences, all sorts of people, and has gotten a really amazing response. And it's fun to play in Portland and in Oregon because people know the story and so they're excited
Right.
about it. But it's also fun that we've played in, we're about to play in Alabama where, I'm sure nobody knows about the story or very few people do, maybe the most online people do, but it's really fun to bring the story to people who have no idea. And so there's been a couple of screenings where people start to catch on to what's happening as it starts to go. And you just sort of hear the laughter start to roll and the disbelief. And so yeah, it's been a really special run with this. We feel super grateful for the way the audiences have responded. And yeah, but local screenings are always the best. And so we're excited to have another one here in Portland.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. And so Kyle, Lucky Day, does your production house do a lot of animation for other films, or what's kind of your focus at Lucky Day?
Yeah, so we're like an editorial post house. So we do mostly like editorial work. The animation was done with our partner Meister, who
Oh,
really
okay.
focus on the animation. So
Okay.
just when you think of just general editing, that's kind of what we do. We do finishes as well. We have a finished pillar of our business called a Mirror, color, finish, motion graphics, those types of things. But we're really focused on the editorial part of the process.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And so what other projects are you working on now that you can talk about? Anything coming up for both of you? Any more collaborations in the works that you can
I think
share?
we have like basically like a call scheduled to talk about future
Oh, okay.
collaborations. But as we're going
Yeah.
through the process of getting this one out, I will say it's been a real pleasure working with the team at Side Yard, which is Winslow and Cecilia and Luke. They brought a lot to the table, not only as like creatives and directors and producers, but just kind of understanding how all of the documentary film world works, to be
Mhm.
honest. We work we're predominantly commercial post house. So
Right.
commercials you'll see on TV, advertisements, that type of work is what we focus on. And like I said, a lot of our editors have come from a documentary background, but sometimes the time spans and the way that it works, it doesn't fit in with our schedule. So it's a little bit, it was definitely opaque that how the documentary world works. And so, working through Oscar nominations, working through applying to film festivals and how we coordinate those types of things and just everything that goes into after you get done with a movie. You're not done with a movie, really. After you finish a movie, you're just starting something
Right.
else. And so,
Yeah. So true.
we're in that right now, which has been really great to learn and follow these guys' lead, and they've really brought a lot there. And so, yeah, in terms of future projects, I know Winslow had mentioned they have cattle mutilation on deck, and we have a few
Aliens,
things.
though. We
Yeah,
call it aliens, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we have a few things that we're kicking around, but to be honest, we have a pretty busy dance card with all the commercial work we have going on right now. So finding time to kind of accelerate into the next documentary project it is definitely on the list, but it's something that is still kind of in the formative stage for sure
Yeah. Yeah.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
about you for Winslow? Coming up for you, Winslow, you have
Yeah.
the cattle mutilation alien feature.
Yeah. Yeah.
What part of the process is that in?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Kyle's being modest because they just
Yeah.
did like all of the Google commercials for the World Cup. So if you watched any soccer games,
Uh,
you saw Lucky Day's work out there, and they do
well,
incredible commercial work. So
yeah,
to
thanks
work with
for
them on a
calling
doc
that
was
out because a lot of times people don't want to say how wonderful they are. So I love it when we can point that out. So
yeah, I will be pointing that out forever because it's been a joy to work with them, and I know also a leap. I think as documentary filmmakers, you are always looking for partners who are willing to take risks, and
yeah,
doc's a weird space. It's not a commercial space. It
right.
is a space for sort of the love of the craft, and if good things come from it, then great. But it takes people just wanting to make something cool, and that's exactly what happened on this project, and it's been really exciting to see where it goes. But yeah, as far as next steps and other things I'm working on, as Kyle mentioned, this film specifically has still a bunch of work to be done because we are distributing the film through a company called Switchboard Magazine, and as I said before, we're Oscar qualified, and so we're starting to do a bunch of screenings for that, and sort of trying to push the film on that in that front, and that's a lot of work. But then, yeah, I'm mainly working on this feature film called A Bird with a Knife about mysterious cattle mutilations. And this one man who spent 50 years trying to solve it, he left us his entire life archive. And so the film is told through his archive and his research. And he was this very amazing guy who had this crazy life story and a wonderful curiosity about him. And the first thing he told us was cattle mutilation has brought me closer to enlightenment than anything I could have studied. So that is the frame for the film. And it starts out as
Yeah,
the film about cattle mutilation, and there's true crime elements
yeah,
and touches on aliens and cults and everything in between, but it also sort of becomes a film about our search for meaning in the face of the unknown, which is a very human experience. So that's been a really fun film to work on, and we are in post on it. We have a rough cut, and we're trying to finish it by the end of the year and take it to festivals. So we'll see what happens with it. We've really tried. We were in the process of making this film. We've had I think 3 other shorts that we've been working on, and so O Whale was one of them. There's another film called Wild East that just came out, premiered at the Sheffield Documentary Festival in London. And it's about IKEA logging the last of Romania's old growth forests, and this one man who's been working to stop that. And so that was a very fun film to work on. I did not direct it. It was directed by a woman named Maya Wickler, and Cecilia edited and produced it, and I shot the film. And so we've had all sorts of other projects going on, but right now we're really trying to focus so that we can finish this film about the cows. Yeah.
yeah. Well, any advice? Actually, I think I'll ask Kyle this first, since you're kind of new to the documentary front. Any advice that you would give to somebody who is interested in making a documentary, or maybe just starting out with that focus?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think that, it's not, I've worked on a couple documentaries before this, and I think it's always important to do you're not going in and just turning the cameras on and pointing it at something. Like, have an idea, have a script, kind of have an idea, like have a thought about where you want the thing to go, do your research. First of all, that's going to help so much with like what you put in the camera. It's going to help so much with like putting the film together after you put it into the camera. But it's also going to let you be open to like the happy accidents that have happen along the way, and say no
Mhm.
to things that maybe are really going to pull you out of something that is like not your focus. I think, and not to say that people would do this, but as editors, we balance the we balance having too much footage to crawl through because you're like, okay, what is all this about? And not
Yeah.
enough, right? It's almost always like you want the other thing. But really, if you have like a creative partner that's thought something through ahead of time, that gives you the roadmap down the road. So if you're the director yourself, write it out. Think about what it looks like. What do you want it to be at the end? That can always change in production or when you're doing your research or even in post, but have an idea where to start, and that's going to help carry you through as you're kind of working through the process, because it will take time. These things
Mhm.
are they always take longer than you think they're going to. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the second part
Yeah.
of that
Yeah,
bit of
yeah,
advice,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I always think about
Yeah.
like building a house. It's going to take longer and
Mhm.
cost more money than you ever
Then
imagined.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and
Exactly.
I think, your point of just having an eye for editing too, I think that's super important, not just for documentary, but really any kind of filmmaking.
Mhm.
Know kind of what you can edit and have a good balance for that. That's a
Mhm.
really good piece of advice. How about you, Winslow? What you've been making documentaries? Do you have advice for somebody
Mhm.
that might be new to the space or
Yeah.
thinking about it?
I mean, I agree with so much of what Kyle said. I honestly, in documentary, I say that editors are directors often. And I think I would recommend for any person who wants to get into doc to start out with editing, because it is in the editing that you understand what it takes to tell a story and what footage works versus what doesn't. What are the building blocks that you actually need to take you from point A to point B? And I think often if you start out on, I now mostly work as a cinematographer and as a director, but I started on the editing side. I think if you start out just in the cinematography side or the directing side, you get really caught up in what's just beautiful and what's
Mhm.
nice and what the light
Yeah.
looks like. And
Yeah.
and often those are not what tells a good story. It can be. And when you can merge the two, that's the best of both worlds. But there are so many docs that don't look good that are incredible, because the story is there and because the editor knew how to shape that story. And so I think it is really the place to start. I also think, sort of to Kyle's point, I think people think that documentaries are often just sort of a portrait of truth or of fact, or of something that's unfolding. And I think that documentaries have a duty to go beyond that. I think they are stories. I think they often are entertainment. I think that they need to follow, or need to be um, taken as a story, not just as it's not, ethnography is something different, I think, right? Where it's just sort of a portrait of something that's happening and you're just watching
Mhm.
something play out. And we can get into, all the ways that cameras change situations and whether anything can be filmed and just play out without being manipulated. But I think that, story comes first. And I think that you need to try to find films that aren't just linear, but have actually something happening. I think the best way to do that is that the way that we approach our films is trying to find interesting people, because people that are passionate about something are going to they're going to take you somewhere. And especially people that are trying to change something, because then there's built-in sort of inherent stakes. And I think with any story, like, that's the question, is what are the stakes and do things change,
Yeah.
and you get to watch that change over the course of the film. And so I think people often starting out think that documentary is just sort of covering an event. I think that documentary is storytelling, very akin to narrative storytelling. You don't want to script it, you don't want to tell people what to do, but you do want to go in with a sense of where a story is going to go, and then be open to, as Kyle said, the happy accidents that come from showing up in a place and bringing a camera and asking the right questions. And when it is that, it's one of the most beautiful experiences. Documentary has allowed me to enter into so many worlds I wouldn't have been able to enter into otherwise. And it creates an occasion where people then want to have a real conversation, and it immediately elevates that conversation, because when there's a camera rolling, people realize that you're there for a reason. And so I'm in love with the form and in love with the process. And I know it's incredibly hard and it's expensive and it takes more time than it should. But I also just tell people, like, if you're into it, just start the process. You would never do it if you knew how long it was going to take. My first feature took 7 to 8 years. And if someone told me at that moment that's what it was going to take, then I wouldn't have done it. I'm really happy that I did, So there is a little bit of naivete and just sort of blind ambition. That's part of it as well, of just sort of jumping in and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear you both say that, story is important, and having a script. As a writer, I think, story is really where it starts, where all filmmaking starts. So I appreciate that. Well, this other question I have for both of you, I ask this of all my guests, and I'm excited to hear what you both have different perspectives. But what is your big, beautiful dream for yourself? So if time and money were no object, what big, beautiful dream do you have for yourself?
You want to start,
Winslow, go first.
Putting you on the spot. Sorry.
Kyle's just seeing bikes everywhere. He's just seeing bikes. Surrounded by bikes.
Man, it's funny. Like I work with just a therapist and a coach, and literally this is the topic that I talked to them about last week. I was like, what is my one big, beautiful dream? How do I unpack that? And how do I get rid of all these other less beautiful but important dreams, or maybe not even important dreams? I mean, how wide do we want to go? I think we're all searching for something. Yeah. World peace, does that cover it?
That's what my dream is.
I don't know, for everybody to feel fulfilled in what they're doing at a point, because I think being fulfilled for eternity is really impossible. You want to touch something, you want to work for something and feel like you accomplished something, and the next day you're going to probably start out working on something else. It's like that the climbing of the hill is more important than getting to the top, right? So having that thing in front of you to kind of work on, I think is, for me, is important. I think I kind of naturally have been drawn to storytelling. I'm not a doctor. I'm here for a reason. The world has kind of shaped me, and I've kind of gone with the gravity or the whatever. But I think that's it. Just having something that I am invested in working on is probably kind of the big, beautiful dream that continues to go.
Well, and hopefully all those little dreams are part of it, right? They're working towards that, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe managing taxes or whatever is an important dream, but somehow it comes in over here,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think that beyond world peace, if it's just focused on me, I think that my dream is to be able to make films with my friends, divorced from the pressures of the industry, really, and of capitalism. I think as an artist, the pressure of money is the absolute, or most of the time, is the antithesis to creativity. And I think that a world where people's basic needs were taken care of, the amount of art that would be flourishing would just be unbelievable. The amount that gets squashed because of the time that's spent doing things that we think are important that probably aren't that important at all, is hard. And I think about that all the time as a filmmaker. It is, especially these days, it is so hard to find the space to really actually sink into something, and to shut out sort of the noise of everything that's trying to sort of feed on our attention at the moment. And so Cecilia and I got to do an artist residency at this amazing place called the Sitka Center out on the Oregon coast in January. They're incredible folks. I recommend all filmmakers to look it up. And we got to spend a month in a cabin overlooking the ocean working on a film. And I think that was the closest that I've gotten to the dream in a long time, because we just sort of shut off the rest of the world and just got to sit in something. And the way in which my sort of brain and body relaxed when I just had one thing to focus on was kind of revelatory. And so I think that would be my dream, is less sort of distractions and to be surrounded by all the people that I love in a beautiful place, just getting to make art without the pressure of having to make money. That would be pretty nice.
Yeah. That's a beautiful dream for sure. For sure. Kyle, are you doing writing the bridges this weekend? The bridge pedal?
Sorry, I have a little dog that's
Oh.
she's vocal.
I have
No,
one of those too.
no, I'm not. I am actually like heading to Oaxaca City in like 5 hours
Oh.
for like a short trip. I have a friend that moved down there, so I'm going to go visit him.
Oh.
But no, the bridge pedal's good.
On.
Yeah, I worked at a bike shop when I first moved to Portland, and I
Yeah.
supported the bridge pedal. So hopefully
Yeah.
the smoke clears and everybody has a nice time.
Yeah. Hopefully that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, where can we find you two online? I mean, hopefully everyone can get tickets for Friday night and come to see the screening and then the filmmaker Q&A to follow. But beyond that, if anyone wants to reach out or continue the conversation, or just follow your work and see what you're doing, where is the best place to do that for both of you?
Yeah, for me, I think Instagram is great, and they can follow our company as well. It's called Side Yard Studios, so sideyardstudios.com, and then Instagram, I'm just at Win Murdoch, and those are probably the two places to follow along. And my email's easy to find there as well. So
Nice. I'll put all that in the show notes. And how
yeah,
about you?
I can send that to you.
Yeah. And how about you, Kyle? You are with your post-production house, Lucky
Yeah, you
Day.
can just go to luckyday.tv. You can find me, and you can find other fascinating people that work for us on there as well. That's probably the best place to start for anybody. And if they want more information, they'll find me right there, and you can just reach out, and I will definitely answer.
Or if anyone needs post-production services, they can
For sure. Yeah,
reach
yeah.
out. Yeah.
If they'd like to, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, whatever they feel comfortable with doing. But yeah, certainly
Yeah.
if they're looking for any post
Give them the
post
pitch.
through
They're the best.
from
They're the best.
post through delivery, we can handle that. So yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for being here, and best of luck with your projects. Hopefully I'll see you at PFCAT coming up later this month. I will be moderating the Q&A for the documentary short block, so I will at least
I'll see
you
you
in Winslow. Yeah, hopefully you'll be there. And yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Don.
Yeah, thanks so much, Don. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to get your tickets for the Portland Documentary Shorts Block. You can also get the festival pass to fully enjoy the experience. Visit the website, pdxfestofcinema.com. If you want to continue the conversation with Winslow, you can reach out to him on his website, social media, or attend the festival Q&A after his film screening. If you're interested in learning more about the services Lucky Day provides, visit them at luckyday.tv. You'll find all of the links in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe and listen to this podcast for other interviews with filmmakers whose films have been selected to screen at this summer's PFCAT. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to share it with your friends. We'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review. Help us connect with more indie film lovers. Would you like to support the podcast by becoming a guest or a sponsor? Reach out at OregonIndieFilm@gmail.com.